Hello everyone, I've made it back from my log building adventures already. I didn't expect to get back online with this stuff until about September or maybe even October. But I finished my log building school in Ontario, and then I moved out to Nova Scotia, which is where I grew up in the Annapolis Valley. So here I am back in the Annapolis Valley and ready to do more of these geeky presentations for your enjoyment, or for you to really bitch and complain about my terrible music and less than adequate I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, fuck that. Let's just go and do some more shit. Alright, for today's fun-loving episode of Miniature Dork Universe, I'm going to cover how I make radio antennas for these fun-loving 15mm vehicles. I've seen a lot of different things used. People do like stretch sprues, nylon brush bristles. I've even heard of people using cat whiskers if you have a cat. But being that I'm a guitar player, if you can call that playing guitar, the music you hear on this episode or in this channel is all from my band Existench. But I'm familiar with guitars and guitar-related products, so I use guitar strings. What we're going to do today is put the radio antennas on this Daimler Dingo. This is this awesome Flames of War kit, little tiny sucker. So, what you're gonna need first, we're gonna go through this. So yeah, as I mentioned before, you need light gauge guitar strings. And by light gauge, I mean like on a guitar, your heaviest string would be your E string over here, and then there's an E string on the higher register. So you want that E string. And this is a 9 gauge, so there's different gauges. I think a regular gauge is like, 10 through 46 or something, but the 9 gauge is a nice gauge for this 15mm. Freaking focus is a real dick in this. What you're going to need to begin with is one of these pin vices. I used to make jewelry, that's where I started, and now I make log homes. Go figure. But I bought these at a jeweler supply in Pforzheim, Germany when I was doing an apprenticeship out there. But you can buy these pin vices all over the place. I would just recommend doing a web search and buying the damn thing online, unless you know of a place that would sell something like this. And you're also going to need very small drill bits. It's funny that this pack of drill bits says, warning for California users, this product may contain substances known to the state of California to cause cancer and or reproductive toxicity. Don't tell my wife. Okay, yeah, I don't know how a drill bit does all those nasty things, but let's go with it. And again, these small drill bits, any jeweler supply place would sell them, small drill bits, or I bought these at an army surplus. It looks like they were $3.99 for the pack. And I'm going to use the 0.35, so that means a 0.35mm drill bit. They're nice and sensible, using metric instead of the shitty imperial, which drives me fucking crazy. They use imperial exclusively in everything log building. Whereas when I was making prosthetics before this, just about everything was metric, which is all in increments of 10, which just bloody makes sense. I don't understand this freaking imperial shit. And so the Battlefront kit, I'm making a shadow here, the Battlefront kit actually gives you a little seat for the antennas in the kit. I'm just going to make them a bit deeper, just so that if the antenna gets knocked, it's going to have a very deep purchase. So just carefully drill them out. You want to make sure that you don't drill right through the bottom. Okay, so we've drilled these out with the pin vise. We've made them a little deeper. Now we're going to go to our antennas. So the, geez, this probably won't show up too easily on the screen. I'm doing my best. Actually, I'm not. I'm really winging. I just wing this shit. There's no script. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I just do the shit the way I do the shit. This is, you know, like it or leave it. You don't have to watch, but this is how it's done in these parts. Around these parts, this is how this shit is done. So, what we're going to do, okay, so I'm trying to get a length of this out. I think I was overzealous winding this up. So, if you want to have a bend in your aerial, like the vehicle is moving, that's easy. You can just bend it, or for some reason I like mine straight up and down. I don't know why. It's just my preference. Doesn't matter. So if you want to like bend it out straight, you just do the thing where you pull it and sort of bend it in the opposite direction as you pull it, and then it will straighten out for you. And you start with this. Let's see, I'm going to move the light so we can get hopefully you can see that in there. It's pretty small, which is good. Now when you paint this though, it's not going to be so reflective. So the first thing you want to do with this is, right now it's pretty sharp, right? Because you're cutting it and it'll stab right into your finger like a pin. So what you need to do is file it and sand it a bit. So I use one of these diamond files. I use the diamond file for this kind of thing because I feel like your metal files will probably, this is steel and I think it'll probably wear down your metal files. So if you have nice files, and I recommend that you do get nice files because they'll do a way better job on your geeky hobbies and be more satisfying. So just hold it close to the tip so you don't bend the tip while you're filing, and you don't have to file super hard. You just have to, you know, at first it'll be really rough, and then when the file starts moving a little more easily across the surface, you've probably got it. And then I sort of go around the sides a little bit. Just any little burr on there, you want to get it off, because that will be sharp and that will make you say bad words if you put that through your fucking finger. And you'll think, why do I do this? And you might self-medicate with some beers, although I kind of recommend self-medicating with some beers. Not too many beers, but a few. It always works for me. Now I'm going to go down to some sandpaper. This is like probably like 120 grit, and just give it a couple more. See, I'm not messing about here because, again, we don't want to put this through your finger, and just tap lightly. If you can tap it fairly aggressively without it going into your finger, then you've got it. So, but you know, obviously be careful when you're doing this, because I freaking tapped it and jammed it right in my you know, it doesn't feel good. Yeah, it's not good. And it's, you know, apparently the state of, oh no, that wasn't the strings, that was the drill bits. I was gonna say the state of California says it gives you reproductive toxicity. Fuck. If this doesn't, I swear to God, my freaking music will. Anyway, so I've filed that. Now I can touch it without it driving through my finger. So if you accidentally don't grab this the right way, you're not going to end up with a damn guitar sliver string through your finger. I also, this is 400 grit paper. Now that I've made the end blunt, I'm going to sand the whole thing just so that the paint has some purchase. So you don't even see it. 400's pretty fine, but it does give it a texture on the surface that allows the paint to stick. And I've done this for years, and the paint never flakes off of these things. It stays on pretty good, especially if you're using like acrylics, like your Vallejos and MIGs and all that stuff. The acrylic has a bit of bend to it, so it stays nicely. But yeah, give it a good sand. So now the next part, God, People are talking to me when I'm trying to do this. The next part is we're going to measure. So on British vehicles, they usually had a longer antenna and a shorter. So for this, I'm going to do like about 15 mil, which is roughly about the height of a guy. It's 15 mil model, so we'll make this about 15 mil, and then it's going to go into the plastic about, you know, a couple millimeters at least. So we'll mark that at about 15 mil. And now I have side cutters, like these are really good, like jeweler side cutters that I use for clipping things off of sprue and clipping plastic. And then I have these crappy, like hardware store side cutters for this, because if you notice, when you're cutting steel, you're gonna get little pits and gouges in your snippers. You don't want that in your good ones, because that's gonna transfer onto your kits and you're gonna say bad words again. So use your crappy clippers, grab on to the wire, yeah, and before you clip, hold on to it, because if you don't hold on to this part, it's just going to fly off into space, and then someone's going to be walking around on the floor, and this fucker's going to go through their toe, and then they're going to punch you in the eye. Purchase for our glue. Sorry, this is going in and out of fucking focus. I'm gonna move this out of the way. So I think I'm just gonna test fit it. Like usually on tanks, I'll make the long aerial about 2 centimeters, which in 1/100 scale would be 2 meters, which is a long thing. But because this is such a small vehicle, I might. Yeah, I'm actually gonna do the other one 15 mil too. I'm gonna have them both the same height. This side is typically longer, but I feel like if I do it any shorter than this, it's going to look kind of silly. Let's also gauge it with a guy. I mean, I could just do my 2 mil and 15 mil, or 2 centimeter and 15 mil aerials like I do on my tanks, but I also don't want it to be too long. But I feel like, no, I actually feel like I'm gonna do the 2 centimeter. You know, this is a good way. If you don't know, I just freaking measure it out. So this will now become the shorter one. And then I'll make the other one 2 centimeters. So now we have that. And we have to glue it in. So, of course, we're going to use our Instacure freaking cyanoacrylate glue. I'm sure the state of California says this gives you toxic reproductive, whatever the fuck it was. Oh, and it hasn't been opened for a while, so of course it doesn't want to squirt out. So we'll just give it a little. We'll just give it a little jab with a pin. And with any luck. So when you're using this glue, I don't ever put the glue directly on the part. I put the glue on something else first and then the part. Of course, it's not coming out because I have this thing running. And you know, my camera is over half drained of batteries, so I don't know what's up with that. So there's the glue coming out now. So I just put a little dab of the glue down. You want to get your accelerator ready. I just put some of the accelerant in an old Tamiya paint jug. And I've got a dental pick, and this is another thing I would just recommend getting. It helps you in so many ways, but especially for things like this. So I gotta figure out which end I just clipped off rough. It's this one. You can tell because the one is sharp and the other one isn't. So this is my end. You're just gonna stick that in the crazy glue. Oh, why don't I put it in the camera? We'll stick this in the crazy glue. Make sure you get a good amount on. And then we're going to jam this in the seat that we drilled out a little deeper for the antenna mast. And then position it so that it's straight. Look at it from the front, look at it from the side. You might have to move it around a bit. You'll have a few minutes to do that. Make sure it's kind of lined up nice. And then with your dental pick, get a dose of your accelerant. There's like a nice drop on there, and you just touch it to that, and that will cure your super glue really quickly. And now your antenna is in place, and listen, makes a little sound, but yeah, it's in there pretty good. Doesn't break off easy. It's got a lot of tension, and that will be good for gaming and relatively safe. So I'm just going to get the 2-centimeter aerial ready for the long side over by the Bren gun, and we'll come back when that's on. Alright, so I've glued on the 2-centimeter antenna, and I think that was a good choice. I like the look of that. This is going to be part of I'm going to do, I think, 2nd Household Cavalry, which was an armored car regiment, British Army. Anyway, I like that long aerial. To me, it looks like a recce vehicle. And yeah, so that's how it's done. Guitar string, just make sure to get the ends nice and blunt so you don't put them through your finger, but they're nice and sturdy, and they don't break off as easy as when you're using sprue. I think if you used like nylon brush bristles, that would actually be pretty tough too, but then they might be too flimsy, so they might be floppy. Like these stay nice and erect. You know, they maintain their shape, which is good. So I will throw some stowage on this, get a couple crews in there, paint it up, and it should be a bloody success story. So I hope that helps you out if you're not sure how to do radio antennas. But I think it really adds to the look of the model to it. Even though it's a little 15mm scale game piece, it kind of gives it that little extra bit of realism to it. And it didn't take me that long at all. The whole operation takes about 5 minutes in total. And yeah, it looks pretty bloody groovy. Oh, and I'll show you some, I've taken this to the next level in some cases. So this is a Puma armored car with a crow's foot antenna. Let's see how we can hold this so you can see it. But the crow's foot is actually a photo etch piece by Voyager models for 1/7/2 scale, but it's so fine and thin. You know, 1/7/2 scale is about 30% roughly bigger than 1/100, obvious. I just snipped off roughly about a third, and I think it brought it down nicely to 15mm scale, which, you know, that to me looks really bloody cool. So you can do things like that, and the wire, you know, is strong enough.
Liking and subscribing to the Miniature Dork Universe makes you 42% more attractive to women.